Welcome to Sunday Supper. I think I told you guys in the last video that I'm going to share with you all my kids' favorite recipes. Well, this one is a must-have at all our football parties or just, during any time of the year as a great snack. But this cheesesteak slider recipe is amazing. You guys are going to love it. Okay, so you start with a little bit of olive oil. And as far as I'm concerned, a cheesesteak is not a cheesesteak without peppers and onions. Now that's debatable. My husband will tell you no peppers and onions, and so will Riley. But for most people, peppers and onions are a must. So let's start with that. I usually start it on a little bit high, get them like a tiny bit brown, and then I turn it down and let it simmer. Okay, so we're just going to saute these until they're like a golden brown. My big secret in this is adding a little bit of Worcestershire. So like 1 tablespoon. And the flavor of the Worcestershire just brings out amazing flavor in the peppers and onions. It just adds some depth and a little bit of that umami, so don't forget to do that. Then we're also going to add Italian seasoning. Continue to saute that up. And then remember, I'm a big fan of adding depths of flavor. So I personally think this is the perfect time to season your peppers and onions. They're nice and warm. They're going to absorb the flavor of the salt and the pepper, and you will see the difference when this all comes together. I feel so bad for people that don't like peppers and onions like my husband. He has no idea what he's missing. But of course, I always make one for him with just cheese, no peppers and onions. So the goal here is to, prepare it how your family likes it. Who are we to tell them that they have to eat peppers and onions, right? So the key to a good cheesesteak is you don't want like chewy steak in there. You want the bites to be just, fall apart. So always get shaved ribeye if you can. So this is usually found in your grocery stores in the meat section. So it's shaved super, super thin and perfect for these cheesesteak. Okay, so now we're going to add our meat. Continue to blend it in with those peppers and onions. And typically I turn up the heat just a little bit. Like I said, the key is the very thinly sliced ribeye. And with that being said, you don't want it clumping together because it's all shaved. So I typically take 2 forks and just go like this until it all falls apart. Okay, so when the steak is all cooked through, this is the perfect time to, again, continue to add layers of flavor. So at this point, I typically go in and add a little more salt and a little bit pepper to it. Mix that all up. And so you could see the peppers and the beef are basically all together now. And this is the time that you're going to go ahead and add 4 slices of American cheese. Now, I'm here to tell you again, this is very controversial. My family loves it with American cheese. I know traditionally it's provolone cheese. Some people even use the Cheese Whiz. That's a true Philly style. Use whatever you like, whatever kind of cheese you like. We love the American cheese. So you're just going to mix that up, wait for that cheese to melt and blend in. Give it a couple minutes. And if you want extra cheese, by all means, add extra cheese. It's totally up to you. And honestly, like I say about all my recipes, you know what? Do what you like, what your family likes. The key here is to blend that cheese into every last bite. All right, so I'm going to tell you, this is the hardest part of this recipe. And if the people that make the Hawaiian rolls are listening, please make our life easier and give us these, but have them already sliced down the middle. So we're going to have to slice these down the middle. And I tell you, it takes some practice. I am not going to lie. Getting this totally in the middle is very challenging. As you can see, I'm already starting to go off a little bit. But do the best that you can. And I'm totally serious. Please, Hawaiian roll people, make life easier for us. So now you're going to take 4 more slices of cheese. And what I typically do is just put them on, try to cover most of the bread. You don't have to cover it all. It certainly doesn't have to be perfect by any means. And then the other side. And this does 2 things. 1, it makes it more cheesy, which is always delicious. And 2, it gives it a little bit of a barrier. So you know how sometimes the sliders get soggy. I promise you that won't happen if you do this. So now we're going to take our delicious cheese and steak mixture and just start scooping it right over the cheese on the bread and just place it out. You could tell like what a good thickness is. This smells so good, guys. Oh, so yummy. And these directions are for one of these breads. So it should be absolutely perfect. And I always laugh because I can always tell when they're in the oven which one has the peppers and onions and which one doesn't, because obviously your thickness is going to be a little bit different with the ones that do have it and the ones that don't. Try to get close to the edges as much as possible so that every bite is filled with that deliciousness. Okay, now carefully we're going to lift the upper half and try to get it as much as possible aligned with the bottom half. And here is my best tip about this and what I truly love about this recipe. It bakes in the paper. Did you know you could bake that? You can. So these people are smart that make the Hawaiian rolls. They allow that you could put this in the oven up to 350 degrees. So I wouldn't go higher than that. So the key is to, of course, try to get these little doodads back in. I try to pat it down a little bit to make sure that, everything in there sticks together. And then you're going to take aluminum foil. Now you're going to wrap it. And I double wrap mine because one, I know that, clearly there's paper in there. And two, again, I don't want to make a mess in my oven. So I wrap it in aluminum foil 2 different ways so it never leaks. All right, these bad boys are ready for the oven. So my favorite part of this recipe is that I make everything the day before and then I just pop it in the oven when guests arrive and it'll be ready. All right, my house smells amazing. These just came out of the oven and oh man, do they look good. Okay, so this part is totally optional. So up to you if you do this or not. This adds like a little bit more yumminess to it. So I just like to brush some garlic butter on top. Again, you don't have to do this, but oh, it just makes it so yummy. And then it just goes back in for 5 more minutes. All right, now it really smells yummy with that garlic butter on top. Now I typically let this sit for 5, maybe 10 minutes, just so that when you first cut into it, all the cheese just doesn't plop out. So you could let it sit for a little bit. Okay, like I said, after about 5-10 minutes, you're going to take a sharp knife and just cut them into individual little sliders. So try to follow the pattern of the buns as much as possible. That's typically what I do. It doesn't have to be perfect, but that's like a good line of where to cut them, and then do it the other way across. Try to cut it all the way through as much as possible. And then I like to serve them on typically a cutting board, and like me, so good. So take them out one by one. This one isn't quite cut all the way through. And there you go. Oh, such a perfect little bite of deliciousness. So I promise you, these things will go so fast. Everybody loves these. They are so delicious. And one more thing I have to say, always remember, winning is for the birds.